guys, if this is your first time to my channel, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Emily and today I am bringing you another pay or stay away. So no rambly intro today, let's just go ahead and hop right on into the first product that caught my attention this week. The first product that I'm going to be talking about is the new Kristen Dominique Lemonade palette. We don't have much information on this palette yet. We don't have a price point, we don't have a release date, and heck, we haven't even seen the inside of the palette yet. But we have a name and some packaging. It is going to be called the Lemonade palette. And the packaging is pink and summery and lemonade-y, and I don't know about you guys, but I am just dying to see the inside of this palette. Now we did see a look dropped by Crispy, who is an influencer. I believe she has a YouTube channel, but I think she's bigger on Instagram. She posted an Instagram photo where apparently she is using the Lemonade palette for her eyes, and it's a pretty tame and neutral look. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the palette is going to be completely neutral, because a lot of the times you can create a neutral look with basically any palette, unless it's like a rainbow palette or something of those sorts. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this palette is going to be all neutrals. Now, I have high hopes for this palette. The last palette that Kristen released was the Latte palette, and this palette actually had some pops of color that I think were kind of out of the norm for the typical pops of color that we see. There was a super warm, kind of rich purple color, and then there was a nice bright matte teal. Now, typically we see the pop of orange or the pop of red. As of late, we've been seeing the pop of blue, but she actually put in the warm purple and the teal, and I think that was kind of unique. It's not the most unique thing in the world, don't get me wrong, but I think for a startup brand and for their first release, she actually put some interesting colors in that palette. Now, there was some neutrals, and Kristen is a neutral girl, so I do kind of expect that from her, but with the Lemonade palette, I have faith in her that she has put some yellows and some pinks and maybe some peaches in with maybe some neutral shades. And I definitely have faith that she has done that, because that would be the most perfect lemonade palette in the world. Now, Maybelline did release the Lemonade Craze palette a couple months back, and that palette was on the right track, but you really only got one yellow, one peach, and then one berry color, and the rest of it was just different shades of brown and tan and whatnot. So they were on the right track, but I feel like they really could have just gone for it and given us color, and people still would have loved it. So I think that Kristen might come through with this. I think that she might give us some lemonade goodness in this palette, and if she comes out with this palette and there is more than one pink or one yellow or maybe one peachy tone, then I will probably end up picking it up, because I've heard her formula is actually really good, and to me the colors in the first palette actually looked really nice. They just weren't really my cup of tea as far as the color scheme goes. So when this palette drops, and if it does have some really pop-in lemonade colors, you bet I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. So next up on the pay or stay away list are the new MAC lipstick brush holders. Now this one pains me to talk about, because I recently found out that you can only buy these in the MAC stores that are in airports. This broke my heart a little bit, because these are the cutest brush holders ever, and I would have bought some, but I don't think my airport has a MAC in it, and the next closest airport is 5 hours away. So is it really worth a 5-hour drive? Not necessarily. So I'm really bummed about that, but if it was near me, I would definitely pick a couple of them up, because it's so cute, and I know they're limited edition. I'm not sure how much they're going to be retailing for. I feel like they'd be kind of pricey, but they're so cute. It's a little MAC lipstick that you stick your brushes into, and I really love the concept of that. I hope that maybe an indie brand or maybe a cheaper brand takes inspiration, doesn't necessarily copy, but takes inspiration from this type of idea and comes out with some cute brush holders or something like that, because I would absolutely love to have something like this in my collection. But I'm just not willing to drive 5 hours away to the Seattle airport to pick these up. If Seattle even has a MAC, to be honest, I don't even know, but I don't really know why they would limit these to airports. Like, who's walking through the airport and needs a lipstick shaped brush holder? Now that I'm thinking about it, probably me, but most people I feel like wouldn't really be looking for this in the airport, so to me it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but maybe there's some story behind it. I don't know. All I know is that I can't get this and I'm a little bit salty about it, but if you have a MAC in an airport near you, maybe stop by and see if they have these if this piques your interest, because I think that these are the cutest things ever. So next up on the list, we are going to be talking about the Too Faced 20th Anniversary Palette. Now, when I first saw this, I didn't really think much of it because it's a typical Too Faced palette, you know, some neutrals and then maybe some shimmery pinks, some shimmery purples. But when I actually read into the idea of the palette, I was intrigued. I think it's a really cute idea to do something really special for their 20th anniversary. And from what I've gathered from the internet and various sources and whatnot, back in 1998, Too Faced was actually very out of the box for the makeup world. Now back then we didn't have Sugar Pill and Kat Von D and all of these more out there and innovative brands. We had more so just neutrals to choose from, and I guess Too Faced kind of came in and shook up the game. So I think it's really cool that they're kind of going back to their roots here. And one thing that I hear a lot of people say, especially here on YouTube, is that they wish Too Faced would go back to what they used to do. Now personally, I got into the makeup game kind of late, so I don't really know that much about Too Faced. I've bought a couple other palettes. I think that's all I've really bought from them, to be honest here. Oh, I have some of the blushes that my good friend Georgia Harris sent me. But other than that, I don't really know too much about Too Faced. But I do know that a lot of people really used to love them, and I think they had more so of a cult following back in the day. And I think it kind of died out a little bit from what I can tell. Now, I might be wrong about that, but from what I can tell and from the videos I've watched on YouTube, it seems like they've just been off their game for a while. But I really think that implementing the idea of bringing back the old school Too Faced stuff, the stuff everyone fell in love with, is kind of smart actually. I remember being in middle school and I remember all the old school Urban Decay products, and I think that it would be really cool if they brought back all of the old school Urban Decay products because I kind of have that nostalgia factor with the brand. I can totally understand and see people being really about this collection because they probably have that same type of nostalgia factor with Too Faced. So far, I don't have a release date or a price point, but it is coming soon, and it does look like they released a lipstick as well. Now, I'm not sure if this lipstick is an older shade that they're bringing back or if this is just a new shade that's maybe inspired by some of their old packaging and some of their old themes, but it looks to be a sparkly kind of pink magenta shade. So it's not really my cup of tea, but I think the collection's actually pretty cool, and I'm excited to see what else they drop because you and I both know Too Faced, and they are going to drop probably a whole entire giant collection for this. But it is their 20th anniversary, so if you're gonna drop a whole collection, this is the time to do it. The next item on the pay or stay away list are the brand new Fenty Beauty highlighters, lip topper sets, and the liquid eyeshadow duos that are coming out. Now, we haven't really seen too much of this collection yet. We've seen a few pictures of two different split pan highlighters. I've also seen a lipstick, and I haven't seen the liquid eyeshadows yet, but it sounds very intriguing and it sounds very on trend. These highlighters seem to be either duochromatic or maybe iridescent, but they look to be a little bit more unique. It looks like one of them has a magenta and an orange, and the other one has more icy blue tones. So I think it's a unique concept. I know that a lot of indie brands have been doing this for a while, but keep in mind, Fenty is in Sephora, so there's not a whole lot of stuff like this in the Sephora marketplace. So I think that she's bringing something new to that specific marketplace. As far as the lip gloss goes, it looks like the only one that I've really seen is an iridescent pink shade, and I personally don't really like sparkly lip gloss, but I know that a lot of people do, so I'm sure this will be a hit amongst a lot of people. And personally for me, I like duochrome highlighters. I'm actually wearing one today. This is my favorite duochrome highlighter, Poppin' Rocks by Cleoned, but as you can see, there is no sparkle in the actual highlight itself. And I know that the Fenty Beauty highlighters are known to have a little bit of sparkle in them, but I feel like for this specific formula, I'm sure Rihanna probably amped up the sparkle because let's face it, Rihanna has the best skin texture ever. She can cover her face in sparkles and still look like a baby's butt, but I have pretty big pores and problems with texture and whatnot, so I'm going to be staying away from anything that is sparkly on my cheeks. So for me, I'm going to be skipping over this collection, but I think it's pretty cool and I think it's kind of unique to Sephora, and it's Rihanna, so this will sell out. Everyone loves Rihanna, and for good reason, so I don't doubt that this is going to be a good collection. It's just not really for me. The next item that I'm going to be talking about today is the new Kylie Bronze Extended Palette. Looks like this is available now, and you get 12 shades for $45. You also do get a brush with the palette as well. So I think there was a lot of confusion with this palette, and for good reason. She posted a promo photo of the palette with the burgundy palette and the bronze palette right next to it, basically showing that she just kind of mashed the two palettes together into one. Well, the thing that I don't really get about that is that people who do buy from Kylie Cosmetics are very loyal Kylie fans. From what I've gathered and from what I've witnessed, it seems like the people who are Kylie fans really like to buy almost every single launch, or at least buy the most popular items. And just a couple years ago, when she released the bronze palette, everyone and their mother and their mother's uncle and their uncle's aunt bought that palette, okay? Literally everyone had that palette. Now, I didn't because it's not really my cup of tea, but everyone bought that palette. So a lot of people who are Kylie fans already have that palette in their collection. And then when the burgundy palette dropped, even more people bought that palette. So the loyal Kylie fans who are buying from her frequently already have probably those two palettes in their collection. If they don't, then this might be a good launch for them because they can actually get the palette for a cheaper price and still get both the colors from both the bronze and the burgundy palette. But just based off of what I've seen, it really does seem like the loyal Kylie fans really like to buy all of her most popular items. Now, I'm not saying that's every single Kylie fan in the world, but it seems like the majority of them seem to really like to get all of the popular launches. So I'm sure that a lot of people already have both of those palettes in their collection. So for me, I was real confused when I saw this because I just don't think that it fits the brand very well. You already have the two palettes. You don't really need to make a mashup of the palette into one, especially not now when people are actually starting to branch out into color more. I mean, we are seeing that pop of blue pop up in almost every single palette that's being released now. So it seems like the market is starting to branch at least a little bit into color. I mean, most of the palettes that are releasing are neutral, but it seems like there's a few pops of colors thrown in. This palette is strictly bronzy and strictly neutral. So it kind of seems like a step backwards for me. I feel like a couple of years ago, this is what was popular, and I feel like now people are actually starting to venture into color a little bit. So I'm definitely not buying this because I don't wear neutrals, but if you're a fan of Kylie and you don't already own those two palettes, maybe this would be a good launch for you. Maybe you were holding out on buying those for some reason, and with this palette, you might end up saving some money if you were wanting those two palettes. But this really isn't my cup of tea, so it's a no from me, dog. That was a horrible Randy Jackson impression. I'm sorry. The last two items that I'm going to be touching on today on the pay or stay away list are from two different brands, but they're the same concept, so I'm just going to group them into one here. Is that rude of me to do? I really hope not, but I am talking about the Sydney Grace No Joke Bundle, which is $42. You get 12 shades and it is available now. And I'm talking about the Devinah Blue Betch Bundle, which is $64. You get 12 shades and 2 highlighters, and this is also available now. So if both of these palettes look very similar and if they look very familiar, that is because they are basically recreations of the Tarte April Fool's Icy Betch palette that everyone was so worked up about, myself included. So these two wonderful indie brands took note of all the people who were saying, we want this palette. What are you guys doing? This is not a joke. We want this. And they actually created it out of shadows that they already had in their collections or shadows that they wanted to make for this specific type of palette. They actually listened to the consumer, even though no one was really targeting it at them. They noticed a blank space in the marketplace for this type of palette. And Tarte was about to give it to us, but they pulled the curtain real quick on our feet and pulled that palette away from all of our hopes and dreams. So Sydney Grace and Devinah actually listened to the consumer and really took notes and nailed two awesome looking bundles. Now, I'm not going to be picking either of these up because these are not my colors. I'm not into cool tones or really blues or greens. I'm more of a pinky, coral, orangey, red kind of gal. I know that's kind of a broad spectrum there. That's just my personal makeup style. I think these bundles are freaking awesome and incredible for anyone who was wanting the Tarte Icy Betch palette. These indie brands have given it to you, and indie brands are my absolute favorite. I would purchase indie brands over Sephora any day because indie brands just really know how to do shadows and they typically know how to do colors. Usually with indie brands, you get a really good formula for a pretty low price point, and you know that it's coming from a small group of people, so you're supporting a small business as well. So I love indie brands, and I love when indie brands listen to the consumer, even though no one was asking these brands to do this. They went ahead and did it and gave the consumer what they wanted. So you have to really just give these guys a round of applause, because that is very commendable. And I think that it is so awesome. So if this is your cup of tea, if you're into these blue tone vibes and you wanted that Icy Betch palette, you have two options now to basically get the palette for yourself. So like I said, I'm going to be staying away from this because it's just not my makeup style. But if it was, you bet your sweet bottom, I would be buying these, because Sydney Grace shadows are amazing and Devinah shadows are amazing. And you have to just love that two of the most amazing indie brands came up with these awesome palettes. But with that, guys, that is going to be wrapping up this week's Pay or Stay Away. Did I say I was even going to buy anything in this Pay or Stay Away? I don't think so. So I'm sorry. There were two things that did actually pique my interest, but one of them I can't obtain because I don't have a Mac at my airport, and the other one hasn't really been previewed yet. I'm just kind of going off of assumptions and just putting my faith in someone that they will come through. But I guess that's good for my bank account. So I hope it wasn't too boring knowing that I'm not buying any of these. But let me tell you, brands are releasing things left and right. So even though I'm not going to be purchasing anything this week, you just wait till next week, because I'm sure there's going to be something on there that I'm going to want. I do hope that you consider subscribing. I have all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, and I am doing Pay or Stay Away every single Monday. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. I hope you are having an absolutely amazing day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye!